Hello and welcome back to Shelf Center. This is Bryce. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks for liking and subscribing. If this is something you eventually end up enjoying, it could happen. Who knows? Anyway, this is my semi-weekly bit of news for science fiction, fantasy, sometimes horror, mostly as they regard books and then also media. So I try to get it all in there. Anyway, this is my chance to talk about what's new, what's going on, what I'm interested in. So let's jump right into the books right this second. I think the biggest news this week is we've got a new announcement for a new novella, newish novella for Patrick Rothfuss. That would be The Narrow Road Between Desires. I will say Rothfuss has a great way of naming things, the slow regard of silent things, the name of the wind. It's just really cool. The Wise Man's Fear, The Doors of Stone, I guess, is probably the least creative of them, but still evocative to some degree. But so anyway, apparently there's this new novella. There's zero addressing of this chapter that was promised, and I'll get to that in a second. But we have this new novella, and it is what essentially it is it's an old novella on Bast. If you're curious about Bast and his Kingkiller Chronicles world, there's already one. It's called The Lightning Tree, and it's in the Rogues anthology if you can find it. I believe I have it somewhere. Anyway, they break them up in the mass market paperbacks into like different books, and I at least got a couple of those. I don't know if I got all of them, but anyway, so it's like cool, and I know Rothfuss, it's his fans can be the worst sometimes, just constantly clamoring for the new book, which, it's a double-edged sword. It's like, oh, you want my book, but at the same time, they do get annoying. I've made videos just kind of making fun of that, just how he says anything and everyone's like, where's the book? Raw. And so, but this is one of those times where it's like, all right, so he announces a novella. It's an expanded one from the earlier one that I talked about. So it's completely expanded. One of the things that he addresses is wanting to name it something different, even though it's essentially the same, just expanded and the reasoning just didn't sit well with me. It was just so like the fans would get the new thing and not be confused. But I'm like, then call it. I guess it's more confusing if you got it and you're like, is this the same thing? What? Isn't this the same story we already got? I just feel like it's like, call it what it is and then say it's the expanded version, now called the blah 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 Narrow Road blah blah blah. I don't know. I just feel like it was like, first of all, I don't even know how many people actually got Rogues. Maybe it's a lot. But is there really? I feel like it's more confusion to call it something different and still be essentially the same thing. But anyway, it'll have illustrations, lots of illustrations. It's like 200 pages or something. So, some authors just full-length novel, but it is a novella, and it kind of falls under that. But it is just one of those where there's just zero accountability for and I've talked about this on the channel before. There was a big, huge, Rothfuss does this every year. He does the World Builders charity. He fundraises and gets tons of money, collects tons of money for a great cause. So I'm not, putting that in any kind of dispute or anything. It's just that he promised that he would release a chapter, not necessarily the first chapter, but a chapter that wouldn't have spoilers, but that he would release it, and then it just never happened. And it was because he said he'd release it if funding got to a certain level, and then it did, and then he didn't release it. So, and we're still here. Again, just zero talk about it, and maybe he's under some kind of contract. I thought Captured in Words put it pretty well, so check out his video, and he goes way more into it than I'm going to. It's one of those where it's just like, and I agree with Captured in Words, like, you gotta address it. Like, come on, at least say something. Say I can't give it up because somebody stopped me, or even just I can't for whatever reason. Acknowledge, hey, this happened. Don't gaslight us, right? Like, it happened. It's owed. There were issues. I don't care. Like, just stop acting like it didn't happen. Like, it's what are you talking about? I was supposed to what? Like, anyway, this just gets frustrating where I believe Patrick Rothfuss is a good guy. He obviously writes very well. I've enjoyed what I've read of his. It's just a very frustrating process that he cannot just be open. It is hard when you're spoiled with like Brandon Sanderson, Will White, a lot of these authors. I get that. It's very hard. I am very spoiled. I will say that as a fan. But this is one where it's like, just be like slightly more open. Like, it doesn't have to be a ton, but you got to address things that like you promised, right? Is that like, what kind of, anyway, I get more and more frustrated and lose that much more interest in the whole thing. Will I probably buy it? Yeah, I mean, come on, I'm a sucker. But I want to protest, but it's hard. All right, next news. We got another update for the secret projects from Brandon Sanderson. This is the year, the Kickstarter that happened last year. So it became the year of Sanderson, where every month there's some new thing, whereas, 4 of the months in the beginning of each quarter. So January and April is now the quarter that we're still waiting for. But we've gotten 2 books at least. 1 book in its beautiful hardback, that's Tress, and we're still waiting on book 2. It started coming together in April, but it's still not out there yet. So of course we get another update email, and there's delays as usual. And again, I expect that it's just the name of the game with Kickstarter. I've never had a Kickstarter that didn't have at least 1,000 delays, and this is good for as far as Kickstarters go, frankly. Just being honest here. It's so if you look, you can check it out. You can see, and again, just as of the date of filming this video, I can only do, and I hope maybe, once I actually edit, then it'll be a little bit further along. But as of now, it's 14% done with packaging of the second book, and then 8% done with the shipping. I really like that they addressed, because this is one thing I kept pointing out. I didn't point it out directly to them because it's like, they got enough on their hands, whatever. But in videos, I have pointed out that it would be good, those backers at the end of the list got theirs like way after those at the beginning of the list for book 1. I remember seeing people getting them, and then I still had to wait a couple months. And so, again, is it the end of the world? No, by far no. But it was nice that they at least were like, hey, we're trying to work out how we can go from the end of the list this time to the beginning. Maybe those beginning people don't just get theirs right away every single time. It is kind of complicated just with how things work and how it's in the system and all that stuff. So again, I'd rather not have issues with the system and just get it eventually than have it like completely screwed up. But anyway, or people get forgotten or whatever it may be. So anyway, that's the news for the second book in the thing. It's funny. The non-book months go pretty well, it seems like. And they still have a lot of things, but they just don't nearly, going through a printing process with these books, it just seems like it's pretty in-depth, pretty intense. All right, huge news for fans of the Wars of Light and Shadow. Janny Wirtz, one of my all-time favorite authors. Easily top 10 author for me of all time. And so we've got an announcement for the date that the last book, the 11th book in the Wars of Light and Shadow, the most epic of epic series, it's coming out next year, and it's May 2024. So now we've got a great date to shoot for, to get caught up and everything, or to start if you haven't already. These are dense books. You do need lots of time to get through them. They're worth every second, though, I promise you. They're so good. They're so emotional. They get down into your soul. These characters just become part of you. And the morality of the whole thing, of all the characters and whatnot, just like Janny Wirtz just gets into your soul. And I don't know how better to say that than that way. She is just incredible, and I cannot recommend this series enough. But we have an ending. It is not a better time to start than now. And get your pre-orders in here soon, and I'll definitely be following this and let you know when that happens. But congratulations to Janny Wirtz. This has literally been, just from publishing, we're talking over 30 years. And again, from idea spawning and all that, I've understood it's about 50 years. Like, this is huge. And again, she nails it. She just knows what she's doing. So I cannot recommend it enough. Then I just learned, and I feel like a bad fan, but the author, M.L. Wang of The Sword of Kaigen, one of my favorite self-published books of all time, just one of my favorite standalone books of all time, favorite lots of things. I need to update my standalone list because that's definitely going into it. Sword of Kaigen's amazing. Guess what? We got another standalone fantasy from the author. Talking Blood Over Bright Haven. Just sounds really interesting. And I just love the way that Wang can put things together, put words together, put action, put emotions together. Just does such a great job. And again, in a standalone fantasy, which just doesn't happen a whole ton these days. Which I love my series to death, but it's great to have a standalone in between just to kind of have a little break. So that'll be July 1st, 2023. So not too far from now. Very excited. I think you can already pre-order it. Editing Bryce knows all, so he'll let you know. All right, then I found out one of my favorite authors has essentially a young adult series going on. It's David Anthony Durham, the Acacia series. Definitely check that out. Is a George R. R. Martin like author, like he's with that like Wild Cards group, so he writes in the Wild Cards universe that George R. R. Martin created. He's got The Longest Night in Egypt coming out here. I believe this is book 2 in the series. So anyway, just always going to follow David Anthony Durham. Cannot recommend his work enough. Just an excellent author that is just completely underread. Needs more eyes on him, and I cannot recommend his stuff enough. We got great news. The author of The Way of Idan by Philip Chase. We've got already the sequel is coming out. I need to read this. Still heard great things so far about it. Philip Chase, as you probably already know, is a great booktuber. It's a lot of booktubers' favorite booktubers, so you know they're good. If it's like, people that I really respect and look up to are like, this is my favorite booktuber, and I've had the privilege of being on his channel. Just a wonderful, wonderful intellect. And just cannot recommend his channel enough, but also is now self-publishing his own books. Love it. The Prophet of Idan is coming out here, and I'll put the release date in the description below and also link to the announcement video. So anyway, it's exciting. Got dragons on the back of the cover. It looks really cool. So can't wait. I need to get into this first one though. But I love how he's doing it. He's done the kind of the Joe Abercrombie approach, essentially to kind of write the whole thing, get the kinks out, go back and be able to have a chance to get foreshadowing into the first book if you need it. If you come up with something that things just work better in a later book, you're not locked in, and then just releasing them pretty quickly behind each other. So I think that's a pretty cool way to do it. In the era of the Netflix binge, I mean, that's what we expect, right? All right, then we got another cover revealed pretty recently here. Josiah Bancroft. This is the author of the Babel series. What is it? The Fall of Babel is one of them. Anyway, there's all kinds of those. I hear great things. I need to read them. I own a couple books already, but got a new series out. The Hexologists is the book. Cover looks pretty cool. I like it. It's an interesting name. What does that mean? Very curious. I hear that Bancroft is kind of a unique and quirky writer, and I love that kind of writer, and so that's why I knew that he'd be up my alley, and so I'm excited to get to his work. Speaking of Babel, the Nebula Awards were just announced, and the winner of the novel is Babel by R.F. Kuang. That's the author of the Poppy War series. Anyway, I've heard nothing but good things about Babel. Really want to check it out. There's the whole list I'll put below in the description. You can link to just all the, they do awards. Just like the Hugo Awards, they do novel, novella, novelette, and others, media, whatnot. Anyway, you can check it out. So it's very cool. Always a good, just promoting science fiction, fantasy. I love that stuff. Finally, the last bit of book news is nothing too crazy, but Will White just released a little bit of a snippet, a little sneak preview for Waybound. So this is exciting. I can't wait for this last book. I'm all caught up, all 11 books, ready for book 12 to finish this sucker off. Very exciting. Cannot wait. So that's where we're at with books. It's been a good book news week week or so. Very excited for a lot of these things going on. Anyway, hopefully things go as planned, but you never know. And luckily, as far as reading goes, I feel like there's a little more leeway, right? A little more elasticity here. We can wait a little bit. But anyway, very exciting news. So for the books, all right, let's get into the media just a little tiny bit. Wanted to talk about Loki and Echo. Loki and Echo are coming out here this year. We've got new seasons, well, a new season and then a new series for Echo. New season of Loki comes out October 6th. I really enjoyed the first one. I like these like the MCU is kind of known for just kind of like me superhero, me hit, and it's like the Martin Scorsese. It's not even film, right? But I love this unique kind of take on a lot of these. I feel like Loki's one, WandaVision's another, just where they're just kind of like pushing the bounds of like normal storytelling a little bit and just kind of going to kind of some weird places with things. Maybe it's like the Rick and Morty effect, that when you can go with the multiverse, you can really explore a whole ton of things. But I know the MCU's been doing multiverse type stuff for a while. But I've enjoyed where they pushed it, and that's, and then they go back to like Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Hawkeye and it's back to kind of the normal stuff. I've enjoyed both, frankly. I like, I grew up a huge Marvel fan. Was a DC fan to the extent Batman was involved, but that's about it. But I'm growing. It's growing on me. I like other things too, but definitely was a bigger Marvel fan. I knew lots of obscure heroes and villains and whatnot. So I'm loving seeing a lot of these things. Anyway. And see like Guardians of the Galaxy do so well, so that's pretty great. That's been so fun. I just love, what a kind of an obscure band of heroes that's done just really well for the whole MCU. It's so great. Not just your typical that you just can run through the mud over and over. Captain America and Superman can always come back, and for the 12 movies, or Spider-Man. Let's reinvent Spider-Man 12 more times just this year. Echo then is following on Hawkeye. That'll come out November 29th, so same year. And again, I assume that to be kind of, Loki, I was saying, is more of like a little bit out there, right? Whereas Echo, kind of more aligned with the normal MCU stuff. But again, we're talking a deaf character, so that's really cool to see. And I love, the different kind of abilities that they can like bring out here. So that'll be exciting. I'm looking forward to that. I really enjoyed the Hawkeye show, and that's the news for me. Let me know your thoughts. Did I miss anything? Anything you're thinking about that you're interested in? Want me to go a little deeper dive even too? Let me know. And with that, I'll leave it here. Please like and subscribe if this is something that you enjoy. You don't know. You never know. It could happen. And we'll talk to you later. Bye.